Okay.
Oh, y'all, I swear to you, Patricia and I hopped onto this podcast over what 30 something minutes ago, and we've literally been basically having a coaching call ever since. And I was like, do we have time to record this podcast? Fuck yes, we do, because this woman is amazing. And I am so excited that she agreed to do this client series podcast because out of anyone that I've ever worked with, and you guys know if you've listened to this podcast 100 times, and Patricia knows, I love my clients so much. I love them all for very different reasons. Everyone's with me for a different, way. Some people I'm closer with than others, but there has been, maybe a fistful of people that have had a transformation the way that Patricia has. And when I was thinking about doing this client series podcast, if I'm being 100% honest, I love everyone, but your transformation over the last, what has it been? Like 14 months, not even?
hmm
Is that all it's been?
Yep, we started in August, so it was a year in August.
A year in
Yeah.
August, and now it's October. Do you believe you're like even a shadow of the same person?
No, I don't. I was reflecting on it the other day and I was like, holy crap. Like,
Like,
I can't,
holy
yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. So, kind of give people like a 411 of like where you were, how you found me, and like, yeah, let's just kind of start there because your journey has just been unbelievable. So, yeah, kind of give everyone a 411 of who you are and, where you were at back in August of 2023.
So let's see. I was working in a job that I absolutely hated, and I had got married and totally changed my life, and I had decided that I had kind of needed to give up on like my horse training dream, and that's what I've done my entire adult life because I just physically couldn't do it anymore. So after I did that, I got married and my life just changed so quick. Like everything just changed so fast after I decided I needed to change the direction of what I wanted to do with my life. And I went through a period after I got married where I was just working in jobs that I hated and trying to work at jobs that you don't like and also work on a marriage where you're at one place and you have to be a totally different person because it's not yours and come back home and really be present and be in a good place in your marriage is really hard. Like I was coming home and I was miserable and I was just not really enjoying it. Life in general at that moment. So I had actually went to a horse show and I had been listening to a lot of podcasts and everything, and I stumbled across Clinton Anderson's podcast that you were on, and I was driving and hauling back from this horse show, and I just started binging your podcast, and that's how I kind of came to like, I'm just gonna talk to her. She has a call, it's free. If nothing else, I'll figure out that I don't have to work with her or anything. And then we just kind of went from there.
Yeah. So were you in and I really want people to pay attention that, when you came to me, it really wasn't like a ton of business stuff. It was just, it was a lot of the personal stuff. It was a lot of, you knew that you needed to make some changes in what you were doing, but like it wasn't really a career. It was just like you were doing something just because you thought you had to. And, your marriage was brand new and you completely changed your life to get married and like moved in with your husband and a lot of change in that season. Were you familiar with personal development before you heard me on Clinton's podcast?
No, I had no idea, if we're being completely honest. Like, I was just really kind of I don't know, I think I was searching for something. Obviously, I was praying all the time, and my marriage was new. I had no idea how to be married. I had no idea what that looks like. I mean, my husband and I were very traditional in the sense that we went from dating to married to living together. We didn't live together before we got married. So it was kind of throwing myself into that totally new season. And I was just overwhelmed and had no idea what I was doing. So I was just trying to like, and it's not going to come across the right way, but at that time, it really felt like I was just surviving.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't just me, it was me and my husband. Like, we had no idea, like, we didn't know how to be married. We didn't know how you did this. Like, we're just winging it, kind of in general. But what helped me, the I would say working with you has helped my marriage more than anything because it's helped me really focus on I need to make sure that I'm putting God first in everything that I do and I'm taking care of myself so that I can feed my marriage in a much healthier way.
Yeah. It's interesting. I didn't take the same approach as you to marriage. Nathan and I lived together for probably 7 and 8 years. And I've never told the story on the podcast of why we actually did decide to get married. I know today we would still be together, and he would say the same thing. We would still be together even if we weren't married. There's something that personally happened in our lives that was kind of like this eye-opening moment that we're like, oh, we're definitely going to get married. But like we were living together too. I actually find it so like, even when you're just saying that, like I know you and I've talked about this forever, but it's like so disheartening. Like it's so disheartening that the world teaches you nothing. Like people go to school and like, again, I don't have children. Patricia doesn't have children at this point, but it's like fuck, I feel like no one actually has tools to be an adult. Like whether that's financial tools, whether that's marriage tools, whether that's life tools, whether that's personal development tools. I like it's actually really disheartening and like I'm actually I've always said on this podcast, I'm actually happy I don't have children. It was a very good choice for me. But also, I know you're going to have children. And like, I also know that you're probably going to raise your children very differently now and like actually educate them on so many life skills that like I'm sure it almost like it pisses me off that you didn't know how to be married. Like, does that make sense? Like it's
Yeah,
actually
no.
fucking so disheartening and like really gets me mad.
Well, yeah, I would agree. I think it's something you hear all the time is like marriage is hard. Like it's you have to work at it. I'm like, yes, you do, but how do you combine two lives when you come together? Like, is there a good step to start with? Like, I wish I would have known how many more things we needed to talk about before we got married just to make the transition a little easier, you know? Not that, I mean, I think it would have just made our bond work so much quicker. Um, and I mean, we're only 3 years into marriage, so we have a lifetime left to keep working on it all the time, but it's not, I wish, not that there's a roadmap that you can do, but like, here's some hard conversations that you guys probably should talk about before you get married. Like, if you're not living together before you get married, these are things that are gonna clash and collide really quickly, and it's gonna be good for you guys to at least have more of an idea of what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and like
No.
like who you are, like what you think, what you believe in. Like there's just so much of that. And like again, this isn't only about marriage. This is like about finances. This is about life. This is about like belief systems. There's just so much of it. I don't know. It's just so frustrating. Like the older I get, the more I think the like our younger years of life are like really ideally fucked up because it's like, what the hell? We learn actually nothing. Like Chat GPT will tell us all the things that we learned in 12 years of school, except for all of the shit that we really need to know. But okay, so you found me and this whole person, like you started binging my podcast. What was
Mm.
your like initial thoughts on that? Because like you did not come from any type of personal development. Like you didn't even know that this, like, you didn't know any of the woo-woo shit I talk about even exists.
Oh, zero. I was like, what is this world that I've been missing? Like, um, yeah, so like I started binging your podcast and on like so kind of leading up to that, um, I was like trying to in the marriage part, I was also listening to like Dave Ramsey and Dr. John Deloney and everything, and I was also trying to make sure that everything I was doing was also staying in alignment with my faith for whatever I did. So when I got to your podcast and I started binging it, I was like, okay, well, she believes in God. That's really good. Like, so, and what can I take from even just listening to your podcast that is going to help me be a better person and stay true to what God is calling me to be in this season of my life? Like, that season was, it was just, I can't even go back really and think about it just because it was, my life is so different now. Like, we're still in the same physical place. We're still in the, like, there's still many of the same struggles that we deal with and that I deal with, but I can't really even go back and think just because my mindset and everything has changed so much since I was in that hard place. Like, I think I've probably kind of put it away and it's like, that's not a place I want to go back to again, you know?
Yeah. It's really like I will forever, ever, ever remember our first call, our first discovery call. Like Patricia literally probably said 5 words on the call. You were in your car because you had to like escape the place that you were at. I don't know if you cried on the first initial call, but you were just in a really, really difficult spot. And in the season of your life that you were in, it was very much a paycheck to paycheck type of situation. So investing in coaching support, I'm sure felt unbelievably scary. You're brand new to marriage. You're bringing this up to your husband that you want to invest in something like this. And you were just like, I'm gonna find a way. I'm just gonna, like, I have to do something different. And, I've always said that, like, sometimes the people who have the biggest breakthroughs are the people who are like probably not in the position. Now, it doesn't just mean financial, but like just in the position to do something like this. But like for you, it was just like, I'm just going to do this and I'm just going to figure it out. And it wasn't how many months until like when our first calls, it was very basic, personal development tools, very basic,
Mhm.
gratitude practices, just you opening up. Like you probably said like 10 words on our discovery call. And then you did hire me, which was a bit shocking, I think, probably to both of us.
Uh-huh.
To both of us, I'm like, okay, she said yes. And you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to do this. And our first few calls, I could tell you were making progress, but like, what do you think the big shift was that like, again, I hope that you're listening to this because like Patricia is a different human being. Like you are so fucking confident in yourself now. You left your job. You have traveled, you have started your own business, you've made more money in 1 week than you ever made in your last job. You have connected with so many people in your industry. You're traveling all the time. You're putting yourself out there. You've shown up on social media. The way that you even sit has changed. Like you came to our retreat, Brittany and I's retreat in Vancouver, and you literally told me something, or why don't you share what you said at that dinner? Because I think it's really, really fucking important for people to hear, like, what can happen if you say yes to something like this in just like 14 months. It's insane.
I never thought I would be the person at this table.
It's it's true. Like you literally like the girl 14 months ago was like literally sitting in her car, miserable, didn't have a voice, wasn't living in alignment, didn't speak in her marriage, like was really in a really, really tough spot. And like 14 months later, you're like fucking talking about like these huge, massive goals. You're setting up a community in your industry. Like you are unbelievably changed, and like it is not like you're not even a shadow of yourself. And I think the coolest part for me and you both is, yes, your business has changed, yes, your life has changed, yes, your career has changed, and you're thriving in so many ways, but the fact that you and your husband now are so aligned and so on the same page, and you have these big massive goals. Like you sent me a photo of a house that you're looking at, like that had never even been in like almost like two, it's a bit like changing the family trajectory of what you guys now realize is possible.
Hmm. So I think really what started it, which is when you sat down with me and was like, what do you want out of your life? Like, not what everyone else is thinking. Like, because I think that is the hardest part is when you're so deep in it, you're so worried about what everyone else is telling you that you should do, or what marriage should look like, or what your life should look like. And I was kind of, for one, I was sick of everyone's opinions. For two, I was like, I need something to help me just get on a path somewhere. So like when we sat down and on that first call and put those goals in, and you're like, what do you want? I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm putting my faith first, and I want to make sure that I'm able to go to church more often. That's my number one goal. So how am I going to achieve that? And then secondarily, like I would have to go back and look at it. But looking at that, I was like, I want to work with horses, but I know I can't train anymore. I want to do something. I don't know what it is. And then 2 months later, like I'm working on it. I'm taking time off of work to go to church more. I'm opening up that communication with my husband so that I can. I went to Florida and got my massage therapy certification, and then 4 or 5 months later I quit my job. And there was so many things happening in my family at that point in times that I was I wasn't necessarily like struggling with what was happening in my family, but like I was witnessing miracles happening with like family members' health and things happening for them. And what you said to me was, I was up at my sister's house and I had a call with you, and what you said was, you just witnessed a miracle. So why do you think God isn't going to take care of you if you decide to change your life and do this right now? And then a month later, I left my job and I was in a good spot that my husband didn't freak out about it. And it was almost like you gave me a blueprint of how to get there, but I had to do it, you know.
Bingo. 100%. You've done the work. I mean, as much as, and I hope I am never, ever, ever the coach or the person sometimes it's like the coach is like a weird word for even for me still after 7 years. I hope I'm never the person that says, I did this. I never feel like I do this for my clients ever. I never feel like I am the reason why. You could have chosen someone completely different. I'm so grateful that you chose me, but you have done the work. I've told every single person, if you are hiring me because you think I have a magic wand that I know something that you don't hire me, because it takes work behind the scenes. But I do know for a fact I am so good at being able to really listen to what you want and hold you accountable and keep you on track with like mindset and strategy in order to actually achieve what you want. Patricia has done some hard ass shit in the background, and you're still doing it. Like every single day, she's still doing it. Every single day, I'm still doing it. In some regards, we're all still having to do the shit that everyone thinks looking inside out, like you don't actually have to do. And you're still doing it. Like there's still some really, really hard days. There's still days where you feel like, oh my God, I am in charge of my own life. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's really fucking hard some days when you're like, I'm in charge of my own bank account. I'm in charge of my business. I'm in charge if this works or if this doesn't work. But there's so much beauty to it as well, because you've taken the steps to have a life that I think too, like something that you've mentioned before is like, there's never really been a ton of people that have shown you what is possible and like this big life that you really want. Like you want this really big, abundant life. And I'm not just talking about financially. I'm talking about like, you want what is like this big, beautiful, faith-filled life that so many people, not everyone tells you that it's either okay to have or possible to have. And you are really, I've told you, I truly do believe you are changing, future generations.
I never thought that I would have someone tell me that. I've something that I have just reflected on over the last week or two, that I've had some good reflection time because of more life circumstances, but is that I think what I got sick of was life is happening to me rather than for me. And everything that happens for a reason. And you can either let the sufferings that God allows into your life control you and consume you, or you can man up and get through them and let God's will work, because he's allowing those things to happen to you. So that's what, when I would say I probably had somewhat of a victim mentality probably when I started working with you, because I was like, all these things are happening in my life and I don't know, I can't do anything about them. And that's where, when I started listening to you, like, you have control over what happens in your life. And that's what I had to do, was I had to get over myself, let what was working at that time work, and get through it. And once I figured out that I could get through like just one small thing, like having one small hard conversation with my husband and getting through it where we clicked and everything worked out on the other side, was a big deal for me at the beginning. And then being able to like even just sit and articulate what I actually am thinking and feeling was like another step. And it's just, I can't even like comprehend how much of the things that we have worked through have changed so much in my life.
I really am thankful that you're willing to share that and talk about that, because I do know that oftentimes a lot of people focus on just the financial. And yes, Patricia has done financially very well and started her own business and doing all the things, but like none of that means anything if her marriage wouldn't have been able to shift and change along the way. None of that means anything unless, she's mad at God for all the things that are happening. None of that matters unless she's able to stand up and have a voice inside, of a family unit that has, been a certain way for forever. And that's still obviously changing. And that's everyone's situation. I mean, I think sometimes I don't touch on enough of how much family, I call it family bullshit, affects all of us. It doesn't matter if you have $1 million or $1. It doesn't matter if you're 20 or you're 50. We have so much family stories, patterns, habits, belief systems in our lives. And unless we figure out what we want to take and what we want to change, we're going to be stuck in someone else's life. And if you're a person who's listening to this podcast, hopefully you're a person who's realizing over the, 300 something episodes that we've done and all of the different people who have shared their stories, that just like Patricia said, only you can change it. Only you. You can hire me. You don't have to hire me. You can do whatever you want, but I can't fucking do it for you. I couldn't do it for Patricia. I can't do it for you who's listening. You have to do it. And is it easy? Absolutely not. But 14 months after Patricia and I have started working together and she realized that actually she does have a lot more control than she thinks that she does, and she has implemented certain things, she's living a completely different life. 150, 180-degree turn, and it's just the beginning.
I agree. I just that was something when you're so in the thick of what you think your reality is and you don't see another way out of it, being on the other side and looking back on it, I'm like, I don't know how I was even there really to start with. If I would have let the opinions go and I would have let all of the old stories and let go of all of the people in my life that were dragging me down, essentially, for lack of a better term, I would have been a lot further. But there's good that comes out of the suffering of doing everything. And that's what I always come back to. I know I talk about my marriage a lot, but it's after my faith, it's the number one thing in my life.
Amen, sister. I feel the exact same way about my husband, and you know that too. It's such a priority. Not everyone feels this way and not everyone has to. Maybe your first priority is your children and then it's your job, and maybe you don't have faith in your life. Patricia and I both believe that faith makes things just 1,000 times better and you don't know how to operate without it. Now that you have it, she grew up with it. I came to it. But all of that to be said is you got to figure out what's most important to you. And not every one of my clients that I work with, not every single person, that is their list of priorities. But for Patricia and I, our faith and our marriages are extremely important. And we do put a lot of time, energy, and effort into those things. But it also trickles down to our happiness, the way that we feel about ourselves, into our businesses and all of the things. And I'm so grateful that you shared all of this today, because I just think that it's so helpful for someone to realize. I think the main part of this podcast, and hopefully, obviously everyone takes something different away from it, but I love the fact that you basically just said on this podcast, and I don't even know if you've articulated it to me before, that, you had to make a decision. You were either going to continue living this life that you blamed everyone else for all the things, or you were just going to decide that fuck it. Can it get any worse? I'm just going to try something fucking different.
Yeah, pretty much that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah.
I was just done being a victim of my circumstances.
Yeah.
And I needed a way out, and God put you in that line for me because I needed something to be better. I needed something to get rid of all of the issues I was bringing in. I needed a way to process all of the things that I was feeling with an outside perspective, which is when you're in the thick of something and you're talking to people within your circle about it, like of an issue you're personally trying to get through, they are always going to have their opinion based on their life and how it affects them. What I do in my life doesn't change yours. It doesn't make a difference to you. I mean, I know it does because we work together, obviously, and you love seeing your clients flourish in all the ways, but that outside of opinion of somebody that is going to actually help you get somewhere without any personal gain is so important, because a lot of people's circles try to keep them in a certain spot because it affects their life. And I needed that, and God put it into my life through you.
Oh, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that he did. And I'm so thankful for you sharing this today. And I just want people to know that they have the possibility to do something different too, because Patricia, it has completely changed. And it's so exciting to witness, because I see you changing in so many aspects, and you are literally changing generations. Like, you have changed in so many ways, like personally, professionally, what you now realize is possible, your marriage, like you are really setting up not only just you and your husband, but your future children to just have a very different life, because you're making very different decisions. And I know that you know that, but it's very inspiring. And I hope there's one person that was listening to this. So I know you're not a huge person on social media, but I do know that you're, which is amazing how fast this has happened. We haven't really touched on Patricia's business that much on this podcast, but Patricia is now becoming, surely in this short amount of time, one of the #1 massage equine therapists in Colorado. Her business is really flourishing, and you have a community online for people who are beginners to the horse world. So tell everyone about your community, what you do, how they can find you.
Well, like you said, I am not that good on social media. I'm working on it, but
Which is so cool, because it's like you're so successful and you don't even really have to have social media. One of my other clients, Alicia, who's, I don't know if her episode has come out yet or is coming out, but I started the podcast being like, you are a unicorn. You have a laundry list of a wait list, and you never have to be on social media. There's some of us who would pray to have your situation. So tell everyone where they can actually find you.
okay, so my name on Facebook is Patricia Smith, and my equine massage is Reparary Equine, and you can find information on there, and my number and everything is on there, so reach out to me. And then Instagram, it's under my maiden name still, so it's Patricia Hermes 11. Or P Hermes 11. Either way, you'll find my picture. But
You could just DM me. How does that sound?
yeah,
Send me a
Christina could
DM or
DM
find me and just say, hey, you know
me.
that horse girl Patricia who totally changed her life and her marriage and completely different person? How do I get in contact with her?
And then my community that I am literally just starting, so it's really raw right now, is called the Beginning Horse Owner, and I can get a link put up for that. But it's gonna evolve, and it's gonna be really cool, so that anyone that wants to learn more about horses or has no idea what to look for before buying a horse, or just bought a horse and now what am I gonna do, basic horse tips. And then over time I am going to have events put in there where you can learn from experts like veterinarians, farriers, nutritionists, but it's going to just be a fun community where people can come and not be judged and ask questions that they otherwise wouldn't feel comfortable asking.
Amazing. So the Beginning Horse Owners, is that what it's called?
The Beginning Horse Owner.
The Beginning Horse Owner, and you can find that on the school app. But you guys, we will put that note in the show in the show notes. We'll put that link in there so you can find that community. Reach out to me if you can't find her on social media. And thank you so much for sharing this story. And I know that you are going to bless someone today by sharing where you're at, being so vulnerable. And thank you for being you, because it is just so fucking cool to be a small part of it and to get to witness it. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
All right, you guys, never forget you have the power to decide, just like Patricia, that you are in charge of your life and you can decide it's your turn.